everybody. Happy Sunday. Thank you, Elizabeth. Haven't even done anything yet. Thank you, Elizabeth. So this is just a Sunday with you and you guys and me, and we'll do answering some spiritual questions. And I always just say, ask whatever questions you're thinking about. And if they're personal, we'll try and kind of broaden it out a little bit. If they're world questions, we'll try to look at it through a spiritual lens. So whatever you want to ask, go ahead and ask, and we'll figure it out. What I did want to say first is that I send love and light prayers to the people of Texas. Horrific images, storms, the flooding. I think a lot of readers, including myself, saw lots of stuff this year with water, flooding, tidal waves, things like that. And so I hope and pray that this government does what they say they're going to do for Texas, which is help. We'll see. They have a tendency to say one thing and do another. They're not honest. They tend to wait out news cycles and then just go on their merry way. We will see. I hope and I pray that they are telling the truth and that they will help the people of Texas, because the devastation is just horrific and so sad. And my heart just goes out to all of these families and these people trying to even comprehend the devastation. So that's what I want to say first. And then secondly, since our conversation with George Carlin on Thursday, I've been pondering, and thinking is different than pondering, right? I learned this at my first silent retreat. Thinking is that logical thing that we do, or that thinking where we mull things over and go over things again and again. It's very surface level, right? Pondering is different. Pondering is when you're open to kind of inspiration and understanding something on a deeper level. Right. So I was pondering, and just to make the distinction, one of the parts that I felt like I wanted to understand more, which is when he brought up through the idea of, and the question I think was, what do you think of our dear leader? And he said, he's like a really angry Willy Wonka, which I thought was a great description. But he also said, we're all Charlie. And then he talked about at the end of the movie or the end of the book that he gets everything that he wants, and everything he could have ever dreamed of. And so I was pondering that. And I thought, if you took that movie and used it go a little further with it as kind of a metaphor of the United States right now, what we're going through, you might think of the kids as maybe MAGA, or people that are really just extremely selfish and mean and all that stuff. So if you took it kind of that, and then the parents are the enablers, right? So they're kind of like the Republican Party trying to they're being horrible too, but they're trying to seem like they're not so horrible, And then you've got all this craziness around us, right? We've got the scary tunnel, we've got the people disappearing, right? And so but at the same time, there's beauty as well, and there's plentifulness, right? And I felt like what he was trying to get at was all of this stuff is happening, and we see people, not everybody, we see a certain segment of the population being their worst selves and giving into their worst impulses. And by the way, if Dear Leader has a superpower, it's getting to people to act on and give into their worst impulses and their worst side, and making them think it's okay, that it's a good thing, right? That's his superpower. That's what he brings out in people. And I feel like what he was saying was, by saying that no matter what happens and what goes on around us and what we witness and see and how horrible we see people act and be, to not give in to our worst impulses, to not act against who we truly are. In that movie, I go by the 70s movie, but I've read the book, but the book or the movie, Charlie never gives in to his worst impulses. He never stops being who he truly is. He doesn't push anybody. He's not unkind. He's not cruel. He's not angry. He just walks through the experience being who he truly is, right? Now, the fizzy lifting drink, that's a gray area, because Grandpa he's the one that says, let's do that, right? But it also shows that he's still a kid, right? He has that childlike curiosity. And Grandpa says it's okay, so yeah, let's do it. But even then, in the end, when he gives the candy back to Willy Wonka, after Willy Wonka yells at him, he gives him the candy back because he does feel shame over that. That's what I think, that he feels shame, but also he knows he does not have it in him to betray the trust of someone, even someone who just yelled at him and was cruel. He doesn't have it in him. And I feel like that is what he was trying to say, is to not move into our worst impulses or the worst parts of ourselves, to stay. Sorry again. Sorry. To stay who we truly are, to be who we truly are. We did a whole thing with the modem, and I just forgot to plug it in, so hopefully it will be better now. But to stay who we truly are. And then as I was pondering this, the saying from the Bible came up, which is that verse talking about the meek shall inherit the earth, right? Which I think is a lot of the Bible, but I think that is particularly misunderstood. And I love the way, and you can drink now because I'm going to say Eckhart Tolle, but I think that Eckhart Tolle I love his interpretations of Jesus, what Jesus said, what Buddha says, the Bible in general. He'll talk about different verses and what they actually mean, or what his interpretation is through his own teachings, what he believes it means. And also Course in Miracles. He uses lots of texts because his thing isn't a religion. It's just it's a way of perceiving that's different, that awakens people, right? So that's what he offers. So, and I know that I've seen quotes of him talking about that particular verse, and I found it. So I want to read you what he says about that verse. And we've talked about, right? I've said if there's a spiritual struggle going on, I hate to say war, but if there's a spiritual struggle going on, it's between ego and consciousness, the asleep and the awake, right? So he says this, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus makes a prediction that to this day few people have understood. He said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." In modern versions of the Bible, meek is translated as humble. Who are the meek or the humble? And what does it mean that they shall inherit the earth? The meek are the egoless. They are those who have awakened to their essential true nature as consciousness and recognize that essence in all others, all life forms. They live in the surrendered state, and so they feel their oneness with the whole and the source. They embody the awakened consciousness that is changing all aspects of our planet, including nature, because life on Earth is inseparable from the human consciousness that perceives and interacts with it. That is the sense in which the meek will inherit the earth. A new species is arising on the planet. It is arising now, and you are it. So it's all about, so the meek are the awakened. And the reason that they're egoless is because they recognize the spirit in everyone. And that's how they interact with the world. Not only the spirit of everyone, but he says even nature, the earth, animals. And so they act and react with in the world, feeling that oneness with everything. Anyway, so I wanted to just share that and that realization for myself and just kind of clarify that. Really, it was for myself, but I thought you guys might be interested in that as well. And I know, because my guides are, I always say when I do a private reading for people that it's your guides with the help of my guides. And my guides are there to keep things moving, keep things rolling, knowing what my references are, knowing my vocabulary that I use with my guides all the time. They keep everything moving. And I know that they told him, use a movie reference. Use a TV reference, use a music reference, because that's the catalog you're dealing with, not much else. The catalog is large, but useless most of the time. Okay, so yes, thank you, James. Light to those impacted by the flooding in Texas and all of those who have lost loved ones. Absolutely. All right, and welcome everybody. Welcome Anita and Carol and Gina and Craig and Elizabeth. Mount Sunshine. I'm just going down to find the first question. Prince Charming's mom. Nice to see you all. Mary Jane. LL. Let's see, where are we? Mary Jane. Will democracy in the US survive this administration? I'm going to hand that over to the guides because if you were to ask me. So I'm getting kind of a multi-tiered answer, and it's kind of like that democracy in its, I guess, purest form isn't exactly what we even have now. It's been already sort of altered. It's been sort of rigged, to use a phrase by dear leader, but it's kind of like it's been altered to service kind of service. It doesn't really serve the majority right now. So it's been altered, and so it's not quite. But they're saying will end up when this is on the energy road we're going on right now, right? Where we're going, or it looks like we're going. It reminds me, I want to tell you something else too. But on the road we're going, what we will end up with is kind of a combination of, it's kind of like a little bit of democracy and a little bit of socialism. We're going to end up kind of being a little bit of both, being able to choose our representatives and have free will, but there will be programs put in place that would be seen as more like socialism. So it's going to be a combination. It's not going to be a pure democracy, but they're saying that's not even what we have right now anyway. It's going to be a mixture of things that we feel are going to work better. So, but the parts of democracy that we want, the freedom parts and the choice parts, that will be intact. But the thing I wanted to tell you though is that I got a message, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that we are going to have several opportunities to get rid of you-know-who between now and the midterms. There's going to be things that happen that are going to give us the opportunity. But we had all you see, look how many opportunities we have had. So they're hoping that we'll take one of those opportunities, seize one of those opportunities and mitigate the damage. But if he's allowed to stay in, the damage is going to be quite great, and it'll take a longer time to recover. But they're saying if we stay on the road we're on right now, this is what we'll end up with. So I hope that's clear. I hope that's understandable. Okay, so Gina, question: how long does the life review last? Can we do a life review while still in our bodies? Okay. I'm going to try to keep looking up so I'm not freezing and not catching it. Okay. Review. So they're saying that life review is very, very individual. It's already set up. So I guess you could, like if you had an NDE or something like that, you know, like you leave temporarily, or maybe you can do it in your sleep, you know, and you Gina, the form is not even aware. I guess something like that could happen, but they're making me feel like it's predetermined. You already set that up, how you're going to kind of review your life when you get back. And I feel like most people, it's like, this is always how I do it. I always do this, you know, and it's very individual, and it's up to the individual. Nobody's making you do anything. Nobody's forcing you to look at your life. They're not doing that. It's and they're also saying you will not look back on it with the seriousness that you look on it here. It's almost like, and they're saying it's almost like here, that a way of looking at it is almost like if you were in a play or a movie and you were reviewing your performance. You know, it's kind of like that, because it's not real. You know, it's real while we're here, very real while we're here, and so it's not to take away from anything that you see as serious here or important here, or anything like that. It's very real when we're here. But when we're there, the unrealness of it, or the illusionary quality of it, is so obvious that it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't have the same, impact. And you're able to learn in a way that helps you to experience it fully, right? You experience other people's feelings and how they felt about it, and things that you couldn't really understand here or take stock of here, right? So that is also happening. So it's a very full experience, but a lot of us want to know because we want to understand it fully. We're very, if you couldn't have guessed being here, but we're very curious beings. We're also creators, right? So we want as much information as we can get to create the next incarnation, if we choose to do that, or choose to move on in some other way. We'll know where the gaps are and where we can work at it. So it's very individual, and they're making me feel like it is nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be fearful of. It's nothing to be scared of. It's for you. Your spirit, your higher self is doing it for itself. Everybody there is just there for support. They're not there to judge. So anybody worrying about that time they got, they did something bad or something negative, or they, whatever, they're always thinking negative. They don't want to look at their lives. It's not like that. It's just you looking at it. And there are people there for support. There, spirit guides, angels, and it's light. They're making me feel like there's a lightness to it that we just don't have here. There's a lightness to it that we don't really understand while we're here, because it's so real and it's so So, okay. A great question, Gina. Thank you. You guys always ask great questions. So, oh, happy turtle. I'm so sorry. Watching some of the footage of the flooding last night, I felt such anxiety, like I should cancel my upcoming beach vacation, like my death will come from the actions of the current administration. So happy turtle, understand this, okay? Live your life. Live your life. And don't make decisions out of fear, because that's just your brain. Okay, your guides don't if it's your guides, it'll be like, oh, maybe I'll go next year or something. It won't be made out of fear. That's not how your guides work. So this is just you just having anxiety and being fearful. And if anything fearful comes from the brain, that's just your brain. That's just your ego, right? But understand this, and this is very hard for us to understand, but even before COVID, they were saying that, my guides were saying this and letting us know this. Nobody checks out. Either you have predetermined the time of your checkout, or if you have an exit point, you choose to take it, right? But nothing that you do is going to negate when you're supposed to check out. That's already determined. So enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. Have fun. Enjoy this experience. Like I said, this does not have to be that, yes, we're going to see stuff. We're going to see stuff. For sure. We already have, right? And maybe we'll experience things in our own neighborhoods. But this does not have to be the year of him and turmoil and these things. Do fun stuff. Enjoy things when they come up, do projects and bring as much goodness and joy and fun into your life as you can, because that's what's going to lift us up. It's not all of us being afraid and nervous and worried and sad and miserable, and it's not going to do that. It's not going to help. What helps is that lightness of being, bringing that joy in, even just bringing peace and contentment in, right? Imagining, a beautiful white light coming over the state of Texas, a beautiful white light going over Gaza, a beautiful white light going over, and holding them in that light, and then having that joy in your heart and that contentment and peace and appreciating, right? Appreciating the fact we're not flooded right now. Appreciating the fact we're wherever you are, we're not in a disaster today. So we're going to go enjoy this day, right? And enjoy this day for the people that can't enjoy the day that they're having. Maybe they're living through one of the most horrible days of their life. I'm going to do this for them because they can't do it. But we need that higher vibration. That's why most of us are here, is to keep the vibration lifted, to hold it, hold the light, and also create more of it, right? As much as we can, as much as we can. There isn't anything, you feel guilty, right? Because people are going through the awful periods of their life, but we have to do it to keep the vibration high, because we don't want to see more of this. We don't want to have more of this, right? And your date is set. Regardless of what you do or don't do. I mean, we've seen these stories, right, of people that are like, they lived their life so crazy and they died of a heart attack in their bed. You know, it's like, when your number's up, your number's up, right? And we've decided that. You decided when the date is you're going. And even if it's in the weirdest way that seems like, oh, it was just a freak accident, right? How many times have we heard that? No, it's your date. You decided on it. Or it was an exit point and you took it, but still it's up to you, right? So don't move into old dogma of like, you'll be struck down if you do this, or if you take risks, you're going to be, live your life. Relive your life. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that because I know that the date's predetermined. I determined it before I even came here. So that's the date. Yeah, gosh, I know, Lauren, and Lauren Miranda, we will find out what, I think at some point, maybe we will, maybe we won't, but I have an awful feeling that, yeah, I think we all know that maybe some of this could have been mitigated, some of it. But that's just a feeling. Yeah. Okay, so Sandra in Connecticut. Can you see if there are any climate events in Connecticut that I need to worry about? So there might be something about freezing. So there might be like maybe record low temperatures like through the winter or something like that. I'm also feeling like heavy rain at some point, like heavy rainfall, maybe some like flooding or what, or like roads flooded. But it's a pretty, I would say, a dull state. But in as far as, I don't feel like there's any other things that I can feel right now, Sandra. Okay, it feels like a pretty quiet state in a lot of ways compared to other areas of the United States, but I don't really like to do climate change. I just, it makes me fearful. And because we live in California, earthquake, fires, and you can't read when you're in fear. Like it's hard when you're not detached enough. You don't read very well. So you have to be detached. Connecticut, I don't know, it's like, I've never been there. I would love to go, but I've never been there. I don't know anyone there. So I can have that detachment. So I felt like I could read on that, but I normally don't really like to read on climate change. Just scary to me. Okay. So, James, my back went out Wednesday. It happened just after the Senate passed the big bad bill. Then it got worse when the House passed it. Can you speak to the spiritual inner judgment aspect of health? Sure. Sorry. Okay, yes, I can. I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. Let me read on that. Wednesday. So they're saying like body, mind, spirit, like it's not just a saying. It's not just an idea. It really is true. Everything is connected. They're talking about the back. So talking about that, like energy escaping through the back, or I don't know if you call it a leak or what you call it, but they're talking about that. I don't know stuff about like energy, how, energy in the body or the chakras, or I know the bare minimum, but I feel like that, like reversing that is a matter of just like visualizing energy coming back in through the back, positive energy coming back in. I also feel like there is something about repressed, like anger and even like grief in the back. So maybe finding ways to express anger, whether it's like journaling your feelings or kind of getting it out in some way. And then also, grief, like there's so much sadness attached to everything that's happening, right? And sometimes it's almost like we don't even know how to express it, or we don't even know, like, it's not happening to me. So, why do I need to, go through the grief process? Because it is happening to all of us. We are one, right? So when we feel things deeply, we're feeling it because that's why we're all connected, and empaths have a real understanding of that, because they feel things all the time that are other people's. In fact, they get confused as to what's mine, what are my feelings, and what are this person's feelings that I was just with. Where's the line? They get confused with this because it's so obvious that we're all connected. So maybe finding ways to express or work through the grief and the anger. And one exercise that I've talked about many times in New Earth class and empath workshop and here is that stopping the dialogue, stopping the thinking, and going straight to the body and asking, where am I holding anger in my body, and trying to pinpoint it. Or if something comes up on the news, you get angry about it, stop thinking and see where it is in your body. And then working to breathe it out and imagine it being released, letting go of it. And sometimes when you locate it in the body, you will like start to cry. It's like you can expel it finally because you know where it is. Yeah, so I hope it helps, James, and helps anyone else that's having physical symptoms because of all of this. It's totally understandable. Totally understandable. And I hope you feel better. Yeah. Yeah, and we'll again, why they had the camp on land that is prone to torrential flooding. We're going to find this out, right? I mean, and it should be transparent, right? What went wrong? What can we do better? But how some of these, and these are all from one particular party, and they don't seem to want to tell the truth or be responsible or take responsibility or be transparent. They just don't. They're all in the line of work of just protecting your own ass. That's what they do. And so hopefully we will understand this so that it doesn't happen again, right? Hopefully the people will demand that they look into this and figure out what happened. So this is entertainment purposes only. And I'm just going to ask my guides to give us what we can know right now, because I don't want to get into any trouble. So they're just saying lines of communication were open. So they're calling, they're saying, you know, again, entertainment purposes only. Sloppiness and underreaction. That's what they're saying. Okay. So that it doesn't have any, to me, it doesn't feel like it has, it may have something to do with sloppiness, right? That can be in communication too, but I don't feel like it's actually communicating that was the problem. Yeah. So it may be like a partial, like, you know, because normally with the National Weather Service, like they just put things out and they do the blaring, you know, and if they're not doing that, or if they've cut back on that, then it would just be on the local government. They call the local government and say, this is what's coming, or, you know, do what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. So it feels like it's that kind of issue. Like there's maybe not as much communication, and then who it was communicated to. But to me, they're just saying sloppy and sloppiness and underreaction. Oh, thank you, Sandra, in Connecticut. Thursday night was really fun, and I feel like the guests that are coming through, the timing is perfect. So I'm just going to keep going with it. I think it's good. Oh, sad, angry, Willy Wonka. That's right. Yeah, Leslie said, I think he said sad, angry Willy Wonka. That's right. Yeah, I have to go back and watch it, because I so often forget what I even say. So thank you for that. The summer swim. If we have many lifetimes with different DNA, what do our souls truly look like? So they're saying because they're showing a couple of things. This is very interesting, because they're showing it's almost like when we leave a life, and I'm sure some of this stuff is just, it's almost like it's not really that understandable, because it's just so different. But what they're showing is that we can take any form that we want. We can take any form that we want, but after a lifetime, often we will have like almost like an imprint, like our light form will look like, okay, they just said something else. Okay, 1 second. So the light form will have almost like an imprint of, so if you were to have an out-of-body experience or an NDE and you looked in the mirror, you look like yourself, but just better, you know, like healthy, the healthiest, happiest version, right? At the age you loved. And that's a lot of times, right? That's how when we see people, because they're saying too that depending on what like dimension for our, you know, that's the word we choose to use for it, but whatever dimension or frequency you're out, you tend to change to like fit that frequency. Kind of like if you go, you know, if you're going to Florida, you might wear stuff different than if you went to Utah, you know, to fit into the environment or the aesthetic. And it's kind of the same thing. But when we first leave, and maybe it's till like the cord is cut, or you get further enough away or whatever, but we hold the kind of the look of our body. And then it's almost like they showed me like almost like more like a light form, like a still kind of shaped like a body, but light. And maybe that takes on more of a composite of all of the different lives you've had, or your favorite look from all the lives you've had, because you're in control of it. You decide. Here it's like we have genes, and we might look a little like our mom, a little like our dad, and that kind of thing. But and they're even saying that is even like planned. You know what you're going to look like. You know what you're going to be like when you get a visual of everything before you come, or the likely visual of things that are to come. And it's to help you assimilate, to help it be more acceptable while you're here. So you see certain things before you even come here. And then, but they're saying that whatever dimension you're in, or whatever frequency you're at, you might shift a little bit to kind of fit into that frequency, or fit in it. And they're saying a lot of it has to do with like traveling around. So maybe in some dimensions, traveling around like an orb would be the best way to be. But you might be, a really colorful orb, or because it kind of, you always reflect your being. You always reflect what you are in some way. And it's because we have control over it. We control it. We decide. If you love the summer swim look that you have, you could always keep that if you want to. But they make me feel like it's not, in some dimensions, it's not practical to have like a physical form, or what looks like a physical form, or even be that large. You might want to be smaller. And it's up to us. It seems impossible, right? It seems like science fiction-y and weird and stuff, but this is what they're saying, and I can just tell you what they're saying. So the reason we see people, they're saying that the reason we see people in kind of a physical form when we see ghosts, or is because they're in this plane still. They're still in the astral plane, which is kind of right around Earth. And when I had my out of body experience, I was in a portion of the astral plane. That's the frequency I was at, right? So everybody looked like what I knew them to look like. Let's look at this, because I always wondered this too, Sandra. Why does Mar-a-Lago always escape any major hurricanes and flooding, but other parts of the states have devastating damage? So they're saying it's not as if like, oh, Trump's a genius. No, they're saying that in parts of the state that are in certain areas have like cheaper insurance and cheaper stuff like that. So but it's not as like pretty. Like it might not be like right on the beach or something like that. It might be a little not that it's ugly or anything like that, but and I don't know about what it looks like around Mar-a-Lago. I've never been there, never planned to go there, but they're saying for some people, they escape it because they're in areas that are just safer, and it's reflected by the cheaper. So of course, I mean, right? That sounds just like him. It was a money thing. It was cheaper. It was like cheaper insurance and cheaper whatever. And so that's why he ended up there. But there's places in Florida that just aren't as susceptible to some of the stuff. And where it is susceptible, either you can't get insurance or it's very, very high. So that's what they're saying. Okay. So it's kind of like, you don't have to be a genius to see, where likely places are that it could hit. And it's reflected in, I guess, in pricing or prices and insurance and things like that. Okay. So yeah, thank you for this question, Henry, because Henny, because I got a message about this, and I want to talk about this, but so the question is, with the bill they passed, do you see it going to hurt too many people? And what are the Democrats going to do about it? Right? So, yeah, they're basically saying what they told me before, which is that there's a chance that, well, how do I say this? There's a version of our reality where a lot of this is reversed and doesn't happen at all. And we're going to have opportunities to make that happen, or to see that through. However, the more likely right now is that it's going to be devastating to people that are already in very difficult circumstances, right? We know this, right? When things like this are passed, it hurts the vulnerable, it hurts the poor, and then other things are being there to hurt immigrants and to hurt people that are just, let's just say it, not white, right? But they're saying we're going to have opportunities to reverse course, to get rid of this guy. We're going to have opportunities along the way to do this, and that we can do it. That there's, and we kind of talked about this again on Thursday night when he was showing Gaza, and there was so much spirit energy there, assisting, helping, comforting. We have so much help right now on the earth plane, so much unseen help, meaning spirit help, right? And so this is what they're all hoping for, is that people wake up quickly so that we can fix this and move on, right? That's the hope. And that's the manifesting. We can start to just imagining. Give yourself some sort of metaphor, light bulbs going off over people's heads, whatever it is, for the awakening, for people to wake up. Because we pass a certain threshold of that, and it's done. It's over. These people are gone, or not gone, but their dreams of takeover are done, and we're all of a sudden moving in a different direction. They're also saying there's many lessons here as well, that there's going to be a lot of, even like Democrats having to like face that maybe they haven't been the best, or they haven't been the most effective, or maybe they've been corrupted, or what, there's going to be a lot of self-examination in this process, and also revelation, right? We're going to find out who's really doing their job and who's really not, who's selling out, basically. So this is it's a complicated, revelatory learning process that is trying to get us to a place we need to get. And it's going to keep pushing, right? It's going to keep pushing us and trying to get us to wake up. But this is going to happen. They're just said, like, this is going to happen. So either it's going to happen the easy way, it's going to happen the hard way. Our guides always want us. I said this in so many readings I can't even count. They always want us to go the easier and more joyful route when it is possible. Always. So it's the same thing here. There may be certain things we have to go through, right? Because of maybe the earth is, where it is, and we have to endure some of these storms and things that are coming. But they want us to go the joyful and easier path, the more joyful and easier path. And so they want us to wake up as quickly as possible so that we can just turn this around, turn the ship around. As soon as we do, we will. As soon as enough people are awake and wanting to change this, we will. Clearly we will. It's just, what is it going to take for some of us? What is it going to take? And that's why it's so important, right? To hold the light when you are confronted with, when you're around unconsciousness or people that are unconscious. The most important thing is that you stay conscious, that you don't fall asleep to, that you're awake and you see things for what they are. I'm a spiritual being having this human experience and staying in that level. That's how we opened today, right? Staying in that space of being true to who you really are, to the core of your being. Staying honest, staying kind, staying helpful, staying in a space of forgiveness, if you can, in a space of empathy, right? If we all fall into being our worst selves and expressing ourselves in the worst ways, it's going to take even longer. So those of us who are awake, stay awake, hold that light. And it really is like we're all kind of lighthouses, right? Hoping that they start to see, oh, this is the way we row the boat. This is the right way to go, right? Not this way into the dark. Yeah. So that's the hope, right? And I know all of these concepts and things are easier said than done, right? Then you're standing in line someplace and people are taking too long and it's irritating you and you're getting, and then it's like, I can't stay in the light. But you know what I'm saying, right? It's easier said than done, but we've got to. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're in Ukraine. Exactly. I think Rudisell still has to get declared a bad egg, and Violet Beauregard gets rolled down the tooth. And here's the thing, right? We're in Ukraine. So let's take that metaphor again. They did it to themselves, right? Everybody just stood back and watched it. And it was like, yep, I told you not to jump in the river, and you're going up a tube. So, right? Don't touch the chocolate. Can't be touched by human hands. So starts eating it with his hands. They did it to themselves with the help of their enablers, right? And Veruca dad, just like, tries to, doesn't grab her and say, stop acting like that. No, he's like, doesn't really know what to do. Just like, stop, please don't do that. And that's how it is, right? But it might be also, and the other thing, let's take it even further. It's different forms, right? It's not always just like jail. It might be, the OJ route, where it's like their reputation never recovers and they're kind of outcasted and they end up in jail anyway because they still are just chasing their former self. Or it can look like, Michael Cohen, go to jail and come out a different person. Or, but it will take different forms for different people. But I feel like you don't, as, Cassie has said when she does her works, it's all dealing with, the prison system and crime and things. And she said nobody escapes this stuff. It may look like on the outside like they got away with something, but they don't. They never do. It always takes some form of, there is always some form of punishment. And I think that, and karma. And I think with Trump, it's what we were talking about before, that writer who followed him around for months and said, I have never seen a person that was more unhappy than this guy. he is miserable. He is constantly complaining. And they fix that complaint and he's got another complaint. He is never out of that mode. What an awful existence, right? And I think that we get not confused, but we're part of the culture in a way that's like, but they have money and stuff, and they seem to be getting stuff they want. But do any of them look happy? Look at their faces. Look at their eyes. Look at their eyes. In fact, who are we looking at? I guess it was Marco Rubio. We were looking at like years and years and years ago. There's a life in his eyes that's gone, right? Look at their faces. You can see it. There's anguish there. There is a type of suffering there. So, and don't get caught up in that. In a way, that's it is our business. It is our business, and that we don't want our society to be like this. But we also can't get stuck on it has to be this, because there are all types of ways that people don't get away with stuff, right? It comes for them in some form. It really, really does. It really, really does. When saying I need to watch Willy Wonka again. Yeah, I mean it's such a it's a classic. Yeah, James, thank you for this. And the ego's job is to maintain the illusion of separation. It does brilliantly. It is exactly how God intended it to. It's a gatekeeper. Yeah. It's that illusion of this is all, I'm just this, that's all there is. And you can see when people are wrapped in ego, because they do things like scam other people. I got to get mine. It's that, and fear too, right? Fear and separation keeps us in fear, keeps us separate, makes us feel that we're alone, Yeah. Being power, is there a simple practice of learning discernment of energy so we can discern high versus low, truth versus lie, kind of thing? Okay. Okay, so they're going to a place where they have gone before with this, that those things can be felt in the body and not the mind. The mind's going to try to, I know this person for a long time. I know they wouldn't lie to me. Why would they lie to me? They have no reason to do that. No, if you're feeling it. Brian Weiss says, the mind is the lie, the feeling is the truth. So following that, getting used to listening to what you're feeling. Another thing to do, Pink Power, that we've talked about is trying it on for size, right? Do a day where you are, and it's not going to hurt you, right? It's not going to hurt you. This is just energy, right? And it's also trying to understand energy. So what's your intention in doing this, right? Do things that you feel like are kind of lower level energies. And I don't mean like lie and steal and cheat. I mean like watch the news, see how you feel afterwards. If you have a day where you're doing the stuff that it's like, or have a day where you watch the news and you eat junk food and you do all the things that you just shouldn't be doing, that you can feel the difference when you say you watch the news a couple days in a row versus not watching the news. and doing something different that's much that you know is better for you, meditating in the morning instead, or watching a really a happy, a TV show that makes you really happy, or a morning show that makes you really happy. You're gonna feel the difference. But a lot of this is getting to know yourself and knowing what makes you feel heavy. I like heavy and light versus low and high, because that's I think it's more of an accurate description of what you're actually feeling when your vibration is low. It feels heavy. Things like gossip and complaining, right? Being angry, having one of the biggest ones, like holding a grudge, being jealous, things like that. Those kind of things. It is like just putting on a winter coat in the middle of summer. It's so heavy. Versus on the flip side, being in nature, working in your garden, painting, doing something creative, right? Calling a friend and laughing for an hour, watching a funny movie or a really nice, uplifting YouTube show, or like this, like watching like a spiritual something, meditating, just sitting in the present moment, just being quiet and having a cup of tea. There's a lightness of being that comes with all of that. And so experiment with these things. And pretty soon it's going to be more and more obvious. And the truth and the lie thing, they already said, so earlier in the year, when I did the predictions, like, it's gonna be chaos, it's gonna be crazy, but this is what you can do. The first thing, protect your energy, right? We're just talking about that. Do the things you know are good for your energy and avoid the things you know are not good for your energy. And being around like the people that are good for your energy, the stuff that's good for you, that to protect your energy. That was the first thing. The second thing was sitting in silence for just a few minutes a day, just opening that door to the divine, because it starts the conversation, it starts the flow. And then you'll be told. If it's time to move to higher ground, you'll move to higher ground. If it's time to pack your bag and get out, you'll feel that urge to, I think I'm just going to pack my bag just in case. It won't be out of fear, but you'll feel it. You'll feel it. And you've got to trust that you'll feel it as well. Yeah, but those are the two things they said to do. They're like, if you do that, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's when our brain gets in the way and gets fearful and overreacts or freaks out, or, that's where we get into trouble, or overthinks, the logical mind, the mind, it's meant to do certain things, but not that kind of stuff. That's where we need to listen to our intuition. Okay, so I hope that helps. And then as you get used to it, and as you start to know yourself better as an energetic being, you'll recognize stuff. You'll feel it. You'll feel, oh, they're lying to me. I don't know why they would. My mind doesn't understand it, but I feel that they're lying to me. All right, you guys. I'm going to end with a card. I'm going to pull a card out of my, pull one of my cards out just for the week to see where we should place our intention. It might be a good place to give us an idea where we should. Okay. Okay. All right. Pull this one. Oh, So it's got the teddy bear, the big teddy bear holding the little teddy bear. Compassion. Tells you where this week may be going, right? Today, my prayer of intention is to find ways to express and show compassion towards myself, other people, animals, and Mother Earth. Okay? And I noticed that in this card, which all the cards are, this whole deck was divinely guided. Trust me. Trust me on that. But there's a reason why myself is there first, because you have to start with the self. Everything else, anything else you do, if you're doing it, you're infusing your own energy into it. So make sure you're putting yourself in front. Okay? Compassion towards self. So if you need a day to just take a nap, chill out, stay away from the news, even though you feel like I need to keep up with stuff, I feel like I should know what's happening in the world. If you feel like I need that break, I need that quiet, do that, okay? Do that. All right? Okay, everybody. I will see you guys later. Have a great, a beautiful Sunday. Prayers to the people in Texas. I hope they get all the help that they need, and divine help and physical help, right? And I'm trying to think. I think I'll see the club on Wednesday, and I will see all of you on Thursday. All right. There are a few. I just want to let you know there are a few psychic reading appointments in January if you want to grab one. And then there aren't any after that for right now. I may add some later, but they're just in January. So, prayers for Danny Shea. Okay, did something happen to Danny that I don't know about? I'll have to look that up and see what's going on with Danny Shea, all right? Okay, take care, everyone. Have a great Sunday. See you soon. Bye-bye.